In 1967, a tool and die man in Hamtramck, Michigan, walked onto a Dodge lot with $800 cash and drove home in a Coronet RT with a 440 Magnum under the hood. $800, 3 weeks of overtime at the Chrysler stamping plant, and the man owned a car that could outrun anything the state police were issued that year. Today, that same Coronet RT sells at Mecum auctions for $87,000. A new Dodge Charger Hellcat, the supposed spiritual successor, costs $96,000 before tax and requires a factory app to start in cold weather. Your grandfather started his with a key and a prayer, and the prayer always worked. Number 19 on this list was clocked by the U.S. Army in a 1968 durability test, running 4,200 miles across the Mojave without a single coolant flush. Number 12 was built in a Wisconsin plant that the U.S. Census later listed as the highest-paying blue-collar address in 3 counties, and the car at number 4 was so unloved by Detroit executives that they shredded the original tooling in 1972 to make sure it could never be built again. You were taught to forget these cars. Detroit's lobbying arm pushed for emissions rewrites in the early 70s that gutted their compression ratios overnight. Dealer networks stopped stocking parts by 1978. The car magazines, fed by GM and Ford ad dollars, ran feature after feature on plastic-bumpered Malaise-era replacements and quietly buried the steel-framed monsters their fathers had loved. They didn't just stop building them. They tried to erase the memory. If you remember the smell of a hot, small block on an August afternoon, subscribe before this gets buried too. Number 20, the 1964 Mercury Comet Caliente. Built in Kansas City, sold mostly to Missouri farmers and Oklahoma oilfield workers who needed a sedan they could push hard down a section road. The Caliente shipped with a 289 V8 engine and a price tag of $2,560 new in 1964. The average factory wage that year was $96 a week. A man could finance one in 18 months and have it paid off before the next harvest. You hear it now, a low loping idle in a gravel driveway, the sun cooking the chrome, the door handle hot enough to sting your palm. The driver leans on the fender, drinking black coffee from a thermos, watching the wind move across a wheat field. Motor Trend tested the Caliente in 1964 and recorded a 0 to 60 in 9.2 seconds, faster than a base Mustang. Mercury killed the nameplate in 1977 to make room for the Bobcat, a rebadged Pinto that rusted through its rocker panels in 2 Michigan winters. The Caliente didn't fail. It was traded in for something that would. Number 19, the 1968 AMC Rebel SST, driven by men who worked the Kenosha, Wisconsin assembly lines themselves. $2,300 new, AMC employees got a discount that brought it under $2,000. The 343 V8 made 280 horsepower, and the Army's 1968 endurance trial pushed a Rebel 4,200 miles through the Mojave on the original coolant. You can smell the hot exhaust manifold, hear the gravel kicking under the rear wheels as a Wisconsin steelworker pulls onto Highway 41 at 4 in the morning. AMC was swallowed by Chrysler in 1987, and the Rebel was replaced eventually by the Dodge Stratus. A car so forgettable, nobody can remember what color theirs was. The Rebel deserved better. So did Kenosha. Number 18, the 1966 Buick Skylark Grand Sport. A doctor's son's car, sure, but also the car a foreman at a Flint GM plant could afford on a $7,200 salary. Sticker price $2,956. The 401 Nailhead V8 was detuned on paper to 401 cubic inches because GM had a corporate ban on mid-size cars over 400. They cheated by 1 cube and dared anyone to complain. Popular Mechanics ran a 1966 long-term test and recorded 162,000 miles before the first valve job. Buick replaced it with the Regal Grand National in the 80s, then with nothing. Today, Buick sells crossovers built in China. The Skylark is gone. So is Flint. Number 17, the 1970 Plymouth Sport Fury GT. Highway patrol surplus across Texas and Arizona, auctioned to civilians for $750 with 60,000 miles on the clock. The 446 barrel made 390 horsepower. A retired oil rig worker in Midland could buy one in 1974 and outrun his own son's new Camaro. The wheel is warm under your hands at noon, the vinyl seat sticking to the back of your shirt, the smell of leaded gasoline drifting through the vent. Plymouth was killed by Chrysler in 2001. The brand that built the Fury, the Roadrunner, the Barracuda, was retired so the company could sell PT Cruisers. Read that sentence twice. Number 16. The 1965 Oldsmobile 442. Lansing, Michigan built, sold to UAW men who wanted a 4-speed, 4-barrel dual exhaust car that looked respectable enough for church on Sunday. $3,150 new. The 400 V8 made 345 horsepower on regular pump gas. Road and Track called it the most honest performance car in America in their May 1965 issue. Oldsmobile was shut down by GM in 2004 after 107 years of business. The last 442 sat in a Lansing dealer lot for 9 months before someone bought it for inventory clearance. A century of engineering, ended by a spreadsheet. Now stop for a moment. In 1973, a mechanic outside Tulsa named on no document I can find. The story comes from a Hemmings letter dated 1994. Watched a Chrysler regional rep walk through his shop and tell him to stop stocking points and condensers, switch to electronic ignition modules, the rep said. The old parts are obsolete. The mechanic refused. He kept 3 coffee cans full of points behind the register. By 1981, he was the only shop in eastern Oklahoma that could keep a slant 6 running on the original ignition. Men drove 4 hours to see him. He died in 1996. His son sold the cans on eBay in 2003. That is how the knowledge leaves, not in a fire, in a coffee can, sold to a stranger for the price of lunch. Number 15, the 1967 Pontiac GTO, $3,165, new. The 400 HO made 360 horsepower, replaced eventually by the Pontiac G6, then by Silence. Number 14. The 1969 Ford Torino Cobra, $3,200, 428 Cobra Jet, NASCAR homologation special. Ford replaced it with the Granada. Number 13. The 1970 Buick GSX Stage 1, 510 pound-feet of torque, the highest production torque figure in America until 2003. Buick replaced it with the Century. Number 12. The 1968 Dodge Charger RT, built in Hamtramck, where the average wage was $4.18 an hour, the highest blue-collar pay in 3 counties per the 1970 U.S. Census, $3,506 new. Number 11. The 1964 Studebaker Daytona, the last performance car built in South Bend, Indiana, before the plant closed that December, $2,580. Number 10. The 1971 Mercury Cyclone Spoiler 429 Cobra Jet, $3,800, killed by the 1973 oil embargo before the 3rd model year was finished. Number 9. The 1966 Dodge Coronet 500, $2,672, a Pittsburgh steelworkers car. The Hemi option cost $907 extra. Men paid it. Number 8. 1969 Chevrolet Nova SS 396, $2,841. The car a Kentucky coal miner bought when he wanted to scare his foreman. 375 horsepower and a 3,200-pound body. The pavement smells like tar in July, and the headers tick as the engine cools in the driveway. He worked underground 12 hours and drove it home with the windows down. Chevrolet replaced the Nova with the Citation in 1980. The Citation was recalled 4 times in its first year. Modern drivers don't understand what it meant to own a car that didn't apologize for itself. Number 7. The 1970 Chevelle SS 454 LS6, 450 horsepower factory rated, almost certainly underrated, $4,475. A Detroit lineman could finance one over 3 years. Number 6. The 1968 Shelby GT 500 KR, $4,473. The KR stood for King of the Road. Carroll Shelby drove the prototype from Los Angeles to Detroit in under 30 hours. Number 5. The 1971 Plymouth Hemi Cuda, $5,200 with the Hemi option. 11 convertibles built. Today they cross the auction block at $3.5 million. Number 4. The 1969 Dodge Charger Daytona, the wing car, banned from NASCAR in 1971 because it was too fast. Chrysler shredded the original tooling in 1972. Number 3, the 1967 Pontiac Firebird 400, $2,950, a Tennessee mill worker's dream. Pontiac was killed by GM in 2010. Number 2, the 1970 Boss 429 Mustang, $4,798, built by Carcraft in Brighton, Michigan by hand by men who knew every weld. 1,358 made. Number 1, the 1955 Chevrolet Bel Air, $2,166 new, small block 265 V8, built in 12 plants across America by men who later built the interstate that the Bel Air drove on. It was the car a returning Korean War veteran bought to take his wife to the drive-in. It was the car a Tulsa roughneck drove to his daughter's wedding. It was the car a Pennsylvania steelworker handed down to his son in 1972, and the son drove it until 1989, and the grandson is restoring it now in a garage in Erie. It is the working-class American Century, parked in a driveway, still running. I owned a 67 Coronet for 9 years, sold it in 2014 to pay a hospital bill. I think about it every week. Find one this weekend. Drive past an old barn, knock on the door, ask the man what's under the tarp. Most of them will talk, some will sell. Tell me in the comments what your father or grandfather drove and what happened to it. The make, the year, the color, and the day it left the family. These weren't just cars. They were the last things this country built that were meant to outlive the men who bought them.